So this is Barbados day 2. I'm at my quarantine hotel on the pool deck and about to do some work looking out at the beach. I do want to make it very clear though, this is not a normal work setup. I think when people think about digital nomading, they do think about this type of office, and I've been wandering for a few years and these happen very rarely. It's very hard to find places like this, but this is great and I am very much enjoying it. I am going to take you through my process for booking this trip, for how I evaluated different places and settled on Barbados, and that way for anyone who's interested in wandering, interested in coming to Barbados, you'll understand the process. I will do that next. Thanks for watching. So I'm in my Airbnb right now in Barbados, and I'm gonna take you through how I researched everything and how I booked my trip in Barbados. And I've been doing this for a few years. So if you're interested in traveling to Barbados or interested in nomading somewhere else, this should be pretty helpful. I'm gonna share a lot of different resources. I'll have links in the description to all the resources that I'm sharing. There's probably gonna be one master link. You'll click that and it'll take you and have links to everything else. So I appreciate you watching, and let's get into it. The first thing I want to share here is from my website. So this is from freedomiseverything.com. If you click the Start Here button, then you'll get to this page. And this is the ultimate guide to digital nomading and location independence. I've written everything that I wish that someone had shared with me when I started on this journey. And this has everything from health and travel insurance, taxes, cell phone plans, credit card and banking, packing, travel styles, literally everything. I've tried my absolute hardest to demystify the full process, the same way I'm creating content to try to make this very tangible and doable to anyone who's watching and who wants to read something like this. This is all here, and I highly, highly recommend checking this out if you're interested in digital nomading, making money online, and traveling. So before diving in on Barbados specifically, I just want to talk about living abroad as a whole. And I think what most people don't realize is just how humans are all really similar. We all laugh, we eat, we cry. And even if you don't speak the same language as someone, you can still connect with them. And I think that's a really fun part of traveling. And so if you haven't left the country or if you haven't traveled a lot, I realize that there's an intimidation factor of going someplace where people have different backgrounds, they eat different things. But I think that's part of the excitement and the journey and the fun in life, is meeting new people and understanding other people's perspectives and realizing that in this really polarized and divisive time, that there's a lot more that unites us than that separates us. I think traveling is an amazing way to meet lots of new people and really understand the essence of humans and who we all are. And the literal mechanics of it are pretty simple, as far as you literally just book an apartment and you show up. It's the same way if you're moving to a city within the US or if you're going to college. It's an unknown experience and it's going to feel a bit strange, but you literally just go and you figure out how to meet people and you figure out how to get food and you figure out where to work out and you build new routines. And I find a lot of internal excitement and energy comes from going to new places, because breaking the routines, meeting new people, all just forces you to think about yourself and think about your life, and it'll cause a lot of self-reflection and exploration. And I think that's one of the magical things about getting out and really exploring. So the next resource I want to dive into is called Nomad List. And you can find this at nomadlist.com. And this is one of the largest sites for digital nomads. It has a community, but I don't really use it for that. I really just use it to get a sense of cost of living and Wi-Fi speeds in different places around the world. And I should say that the data is very far from perfect. It's pretty rough and loose. But it's really helpful if you're trying to get a sense of how much do things cost, how is the Wi-Fi in different places, and to just see some reviews from other nomads who have lived in that place. And so you can find lots of helpful information about various places around the world on here. And I highly recommend checking it out and poking around. It'll be some great inspiration and there's lots of good content on here. So next I want to cover why I think Barbados is a great destination right now if you're working online and you want to travel. The first thing is just the time zone, where it's on a US time zone. It's an island, it has surfing, it's warm, and maybe most importantly, during COVID-19, it's pretty much COVID-free. The government's worked really hard to aggressively test and control the influx of people who want to visit here. And that means that they've only had 250 total cases during COVID, and they have very few per day. So life here is pretty normal. You can go to bars, you can party, you can go to restaurants, and things are functioning in a pretty normal way, which during this time of lockdowns and a lot of restrictions in a lot of places, I think this is a really good option during the winter COVID right now. The other big thing to talk about is just the visa situation, which if you're an American, you get 6 months visa free at no cost, or you can pay $2,000 to get a 12-month visa if you're a remote worker. And then from a cost of living standpoint, Barbados is a little bit cheaper than the US, definitely not Bali or Mexico, but I'm paying about $1,400 per month for a 2-bedroom about a block from the beach, which is definitely cheaper than most major US cities. I'm also splitting a car rental with a couple people that's $800 per month. And then food is about the same price as the US. So grocery stores, restaurants are all about the same price. But the food here is great and I'm very much enjoying it. So the next resource that I want to go over, which even if you're not traveling to Barbados, you should find super helpful, is just the best resources for COVID-19 travel and visa restrictions. So this is also on my website, Freedom is Everything. You can find it up here in the menu at COVID-19 travel. And if you click on one of these here, it'll take you to a page that has an overview of every country in the world and all of their visa restrictions. So it's really helpful just to get a sense of where you can travel, what you need to have, and who's allowing visitors and who isn't. And so during COVID, highly recommend checking this out if you're thinking about traveling. The next thing I'm going to cover is just how I booked my trip to Barbados. So really the nuts and bolts. And Google is your friend on this. So if you Google Barbados visa for Americans or whatever country you're going to or from, it'll give you a read of what the visa situation is in that country. And then also, if you search where to live in Barbados, expat, or if you just search Barbados digital nomad or Barbados expat, then it'll give you some really good guides written by other people about what to know if you're thinking about traveling to those places. And I use these guides pretty extensively just to get a feel for what the place is going to be like and what people who have lived there think of it, because it's the best way to gather information and to really understand what your experience is going to be like. So the next great resource to cover is just the Barbados government site about COVID restrictions and guidelines. And these guidelines change pretty frequently. So if you watch this at some point in the future, some of what I'm saying about Barbados may be outdated. I highly recommend checking out this site. It's visitbarbados.org. And it'll have up-to-date stuff about what you need to know about testing and quarantining and all kinds of other things. So I'm going to go through now how I booked my flight. And so I love Google Flights. Google Flights is my favorite resource for booking international flights. For domestic and regional flights, I find that Skyscanner is much better and has more airlines. But if you're booking internationally, Google Flights is amazing. So one of my favorite things is just putting in the location that I'm in and putting in no destination and just looking at how much it costs to fly anywhere in the world. And this is a really good way just to get inspiration of where to travel and how much things cost. And so even if you're just kind of in the planning or messing around stage, this is a fun exercise. But if you know your destination, and so I'll type in Barbados right now, it'll give you a really good list of how much it costs at varying times. And so you can mess around with these dates, and frequently on this calendar, it'll show you the prices at different times. Right now, it's not for some reason, but it's really helpful just to understand the prices at different months and on different days. So next, I'll just go through booking long-term housing, which if you're outside of the big nomad hubs like Bali and like Chiang Mai, where in those places, it's usually better to book on the ground when you get there and to check places out in person and pay with cash. And that's just because the inventory is so big. And so there's so much to find there. But in a place like Barbados, which it's a more nascent digital nomad scene, it's easier just to use Airbnb, and you can usually just book a place before you get there. And so here are my quick tips on Airbnb. If you type in where you're going, you type in your dates, your number of guests, and then you can filter by the type of place, which is frequently just entire place, unless it's a really expensive place or depends on your budget a little bit. And then you can filter by your price. And I will frequently filter by Wi-Fi and air conditioning, sometimes dedicated workspace, but some of those places aren't listed correctly. So I like to be broader and then figure it out from there. And then you can just look through places. So you click on places, you reach out to hosts, and you get a sense for what prices are and where you live at what price. And so I'm down in the Oistins area, which is down here on the map, and I highly recommend it. I'm a very big fan, but I know that the West Coast is also a popular place for people to live if they're coming here. And I've written a longer guide about booking long-term housing and Airbnb tips, which again will also be in the description. I'm not going to go through all of that right now, but that's there if you're interested in going deeper on this topic. The next link that I'm going to show is a list of Barbados quarantine hotels. This was made by someone that I found in one of the Facebook groups I'm about to show you. Super helpful, goes through all of your different quarantine hotel options and what the prices and features and amenities are. And I highly, highly recommend checking this out if you're far along in your booking process and you're thinking about where to quarantine when you need to quarantine. The last big resource I want to go through are the Facebook groups. And this is something, regardless if you're going to Barbados or if you're going to any destination around the world, Facebook groups tend to be the best resources where you can connect with other expats and nomads in your city and connect with locals as well. And so this group called Barbados Expats, and there's another one right here called Barbados Digital Nomads. And both of these people are so unbelievably helpful. So you can search for past questions or feel free to ask. And you can see right here, as I pull this up, question from 5 hours ago, 20 comments. So people are very engaged and really knowledgeable. And it's been really helpful for me as I asked about random stuff like where can I buy avocados or what is the quarantine process right now. So I highly recommend these groups because any questions that you can't find answers to online, these are the people who will be able to answer the questions for you. So wrapping up here, Barbados and nomading as a whole are both awesome. And I highly recommend coming here or just exploring the world and getting out there a bit. If you do come here, please make sure to reach out to me. I would love to grab coffee. Or if you end up somewhere else where I am at that time, please reach out. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me as well. And I hope you have an awesome day or a great night wherever you are. And if you enjoyed the content, please make sure to subscribe below, leave me a thumbs up, and yeah, have a good one. Thanks for watching.